All right, so this is a 2016 Audi Allroad Premium Plus. And you may be saying to yourself, who wants a station wagon? And especially one that's a little bit older, but I really like this vehicle. So it's not the newest looking Audi. And when it came out, it probably wasn't the flashiest or the most fresh looking vehicle, but it does have quattro. It has a 2-liter turbocharged engine with 220 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. So that's not a ton of power, but the turbo is going to give you linear power, and it's going to feel pretty responsive. You're not going to be towing a mobile home with this, but it'll get you by good enough. Now, one of the things I will say about these estates, and I really love these. I like European-styled station wagons, and they call those estates across the ocean. But I think they look really, really good. I think they're super practical, and they're just less clunky to drive. I mean, this one has like massive tires, beefy tires. It doesn't have the biggest rims. I mean, this is rocking 18s, but that's good enough for me. And to some, this may look a little goofy. It may look a little too round. I don't think so. I really, really like these vehicles. They're wide and they're low slung. So they definitely look sporty and luxurious and very capable at the same time. So that's just my take. You do have exposed dual exhaust in the back, and you have Allroad on the back here. I don't think this vehicle has a bad angle. And again, this is a 2016. It's 8 years old. So it's showing its age a little bit. You can tell this isn't the newest Audi. But again, I think it's worth a look if you're in the market for like an SUV or even maybe a used, this is gonna sound crazy, you can cross shop this with like a used Outback. So looking in the back, you do have a good amount of space here. All right, so one thing I will state is that if you are buying a used Audi Allroad, you wanna make sure you have one that's like at least a mid-trim or higher, because these things were kind of sparse when they came out as far as options. Like Bluetooth and blind spot monitoring were not standard on this vehicle, and that's criminal even in a 2016 Audi. But I digress. I love the kick plate here. I love the fact that you have a good amount of space here. I think this is good utility. These seats can be folded down relatively easily. You just press this button here and the seats come down. It's not automatic, but that's okay. Right, so that is a good amount of space. I mean, this is not your grandmother's old station wagon from the late 80s, early 90s that fits 7 passengers, but that is a ton of utility here. It looks like you do have incandescent bulbs here, which you can change those out for LEDs. You have some anchor hooks here, which is what I like to see. These are metallic, so that's very solid. Under this floorboard, you have a nice donut here. So you see those in a lot of Audis and Porsche, that style rim. You have a charge port right here. You have a first aid kit there. This vehicle looks really good. And this is an automatic tailgate, so it does have that. And I like the haunches on here. I like that this vehicle has broad shoulders. I wish this plastic trim here was darker, but this is what Audi was doing at the time. I don't think it looks bad. I think this vehicle looks very, very tasteful. And if anything, this cladding and the wheels, they kind of lend to a more utility-oriented styling, more so than a lot of modern, sleek, estates. But that's okay. I like that. Hopping in the back, we'll put this seat up. You can tell by the weight there, it is a luxury vehicle. I like these thicker borders around the door. This is soft touch. This is soft touch. You do have like the locking mechanism in the door here. You got your tweeter grille, your mid-range grille here. You have the Audi Allroad kick plate here. I don't think that lights up, but it's still a nice touch. So sitting in the back, you don't have a ton of room back here. So this does have quattro. So you are going to lose, with this transmission tunnel hump here, and the exhaust runs through here. But you do have vents back here, which I like. You also have a, cigarette style charging port. We'll open this door. You have a hard back on this seat and some netting here. This vehicle obviously has some wear on it, but it does feel comfortable sitting back here. I don't feel like I'm sitting in the floor. I feel like I'm sitting at a normal ride height for a sedan. I feel like the footwell is a little bit deeper, so but that's okay. Like, there's good room for my feet here. Got the Vans on. The carpeting feels good in here. You know, it feels a little bit better than, you know, your standard vehicle. This is a faux wood inlay, but I'm not mad at it. It helps the interior look less Teutonic. I wish that had a metallic cover on it, but again, this is kind of like an off-roady, more utility-minded vehicle. Inside, we do have LED lighting that's not going to come on because it's in power save mode. That's okay. And here's what we're looking at from the back seat. So this interior, I mean, this definitely, if you're familiar with these Allroads, this is par for the course. Obviously, you have heated seats here. You have a CD player. The controls and stuff are not bad at all. But this, I mean, this vehicle's 8 years old, so let's not put too much pressure on it looking very, very modern. But for what it stands for, I really like it. You also have a semi-pano roof, which I like. All right, and these doors do feel solid. And you have keyless entry on the front and back, which is dope. This front end is unmistakable Audi, but you can tell this is kind of like 2014, 13, 14, 15 kind of styling. Yeah, I guess this is a black metallic paint. So I wish it was a little bit more flaky. You got your VIN right there. You definitely have a nice turn signal indicator in this side view mirror. I love the fact that you have this mount here. This is an Audi branded mount, so this was added on at the dealer, at the factory, so I love that. You can put your kayak up here. Opening the door, it still looks luxurious. I wish the tips on those window switches were not painted. I wish they were metallic, but you do have memory seating in here. So you have 2 settings for the memory seat. You have a kick plate here. Stepping inside, again, the doors feel very solid. And I mean, this is a pretty straightforward instrument cluster. I wish this was a bit bigger. You know, I have a Jetta, and I mean, mine looks kind of the same as on par with this one. So that's a little bit disappointing. And I say that because this is not a base model. You have navigation in here. This screen, you know, it's a decent size, but yeah, it's not a new vehicle by any means. Like, if this is a 2022, 23, you have a wide angle display here. But everything is pretty straightforward in here. So these feel solid. I mean, these buttons kind of feel mid-range, if I'm being honest. You know, if you told me this is a button out of a Kia, I would believe you. So that is a little bit disappointing. But if you've ever driven or ridden in an Audi for an extended period of time, you know the suspensions feel very solid. And this vehicle can cruise in the 90s and feel very, very comfortable. So, you know, drive selector here is very straightforward. Here's how you navigate through the menu up here. So that's what this display looks like when it's on. So honestly, it does look a little basic, but you do have Bluetooth controls here. You can kind of control your navigation here. And here's this screen coming on. So I would say every 4 to 5 years, Audi updates their infotainment, and this one's going to cut off because it has a low battery. So I will say this: you want to be mindful of stuff like that, because you can't even probably option a better screen on this. Like, when they get hooked to something, they use it for a while, and there's really not that much you can do about it. I mean, these speakers are loud enough, and the clarity is there. So that's one thing about Volkswagen. You have good sound systems. This mirror, you know, it's average size. You have LED lighting here, which I love. This is an LED lighting here. This is a typical Volkswagen Audi mechanism for opening your sunroof, which is right here. These seats feel very, very good. I mean, you feel like they're probably half bolstered, half cushioned, but they feel good. They don't feel too small. They feel well padded. And so, yeah, you definitely know you're in a luxury car. You do have a backup camera. And again, these controls are pretty straightforward. You do have an electronic parking brake, so no worries there. This does look a little bit out of place. I mean, this looks very, very old school amongst all of these things, but, you know, this doesn't look the most modern. I think, honestly, they could have done a better design out the gate, and I think this vehicle has 3G connectivity, which is not bad. You know, you have heated seats in here, but I would like for the seats to be perforated. But that's okay. I mean, overall, this is a good-looking vehicle, and I really can't complain. Here's what the navigation screen looks like. So, you know, it's very contrasty good. The brightness is good. In direct sunlight, you're good. So no worries there. Overall, I think if you're into Volkswagens and Audis, this is going to be a dope vehicle for you. And so lastly, we'll take a look under the hood. You do have a hood strut. This is typical Audi. And since this vehicle has Quattro, which is four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, it does have a longitudinally mounted engine. So this is that small four-cylinder. You're not going to be doing too much with it, but your air box is right here. I don't know where the battery is. That's a little bit annoying, but you know, it's going to be a little bit tight in here because not only do you have four-wheel drive, but then you have a radiator and an intercooler here. So there's a lot going on with the suspension here. Obviously, these strut towers kind of encroach on the vehicle's engine compartment. I mean, they do take about 20% of the space up, if not more, probably 25%. But all in all, this is a very, very attractive vehicle for people who like this kind of vehicle and are not married to SUVs. I would highly recommend taking a look at this. You know, the fog lamps are a little old school looking, but it looks good enough to me.